This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. I know normally I do a birthday boy of a living player, but I couldn't find a living player person for December 11th after Daniel Alfredson and Sharif Abdul Rahim were doing the past 2 years on this day, birthday boy. So I found this guy who was an instrumental Heisman Trophy winner way back in the war days in the 1940s. His name was Doc Blanchard. He was born December 11th, 1924 in South Carolina. His father was a doctor and actually played football at Tulane and Wake Forest. So they would settle in South Carolina, and he went to high school in Mississippi. Army would recruit him to play football. And it was either that or Fordham or Notre Dame. He wasn't too good academically and didn't think he would go to West Point to play football. He actually decided to go to North Carolina because the coach of the Tar Heels, Jim Tatum, was his mother's cousin. And he would play for the freshman team because he was not allowed to play varsity. But after the U.S. became a major ally in World War II in 1943, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. He was stationed in New Mexico with a chemical warfare unit until enrolling at West Point in 1944. So he would play football with the Army and all that. So anyway, he played his 3 years of varsity at Army, and the team was 27-0-1, with the tie being a famous 0-0 game with Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium in 1946. Not the Yankee Stadium we all know nowadays. The Yankee Stadium of 1923 to 2008. Regardless, after Notre Dame got their asses handed to them 59-0 in 1944, Coach Ed McKeever said, "I've just seen Superman in the flesh." He wears number 35 and goes by the name of Blanchard. In addition to being a good runner, he was the kicker and punter. And on defense, he was a linebacker. He would team up with Glenn Davis on the lethal 1944, 45, and 46 Army squads. And did it. Doc Blanchard was known as Mr. Inside because he could get the inside runs, and Glenn Davis was known as Mr. Outside. And the funny thing was that Blanchard won the 1945 Heisman, and then the next year, Davis won the Heisman. So that's how good Army was. In his 3 seasons at Army, Blanchard got 38 touchdowns and all that. So anyway, there was an award ceremony marking the 50th Heisman Trophy presentation in 1984, and Blanchard said he recalled getting a telegram saying, "You've been selected to win the Heisman Trophy. Please wire collect." Anyway, in 1946, he actually missed the first few games of the season due to injury to his knee. So anyway, he was in the class of 1947. He was even in a movie starring himself called The Spirit of West Point. And Glenn Davis also played himself in the film. It's kind of weird and all that. Anyway, Blanchard would graduate from West Point in 1947 and was a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force. He would coach Army's freshman team in the 1950s, but never playing pro football, deciding for a military deal. Pittsburgh had him selected 3rd overall in the 1946 NFL draft, and it looked good for Doc Blanchard. He would be an NFL star after being with Army, but he turned it down to be part of the U.S. Air Force, earning his pilot wings in 1948, becoming a fighter pilot. So anyway, in 1959, he was trying to fly his F-100 Super Sabre, but a fuel leak broke and caught his plane on fire. Rather than escaping and parachuting out safely, he stayed with the plane and landed it safely because of a fillage in the ground that would have been damaged. The Air Force commended him for bravery on this one. He actually flew in the Vietnam War, 113 missions from Thailand, many of them over North Vietnam in an F-105 fighter bomber. During a one-year tour duty that ended in 1969, he retired from the Air Force as a colonel in 1971 and would be part of the New Mexico Military Institute for years. Hard to believe he was actually fighting in Vietnam. Anyway, Blanchard would die of pneumonia at age 84, April 2009 in Texas. He was the oldest living Heisman Trophy winner when he died. He was interned in San Antonio, but anyway, it was just huge what he did and all that. Army retired Doc Blanchard's number 35 in 2009. And it was just huge how Doc Blanchard, was big for Army. And back in the 1940s when college football tried to take people's attention away from World War II. And he was good. He was a good player alongside Glenn Davis, Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside. So Army were just that fearful in the 1940s. And that's the truth. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.